And we are back here on Katz and Cosby. Well, Jake Tapper, the host there on CNN, wrote that book about Joe Biden, calls the Democratic cover-up of Biden's cognitive decline may be, quote, worse than Watergate. Where was he?
Where was he for 4 years?
Where was he?
Making money on CNN. Now he's making money on the book.
Yeah, maybe he should have put it out to the American public versus wait for a book. It's preposterous. And like you said, we could see it with our own two eyes. And somebody who knew it all too well, who's done a lot of great investigative work that's sort of blown the lid on this, is also Tom Fitton. He is the head of Judicial Watch. Tom, great to have you here on Katz and Cosby. Your reaction when you see all of this, these folks now saying, this is a biggest scandal ever. We could see that Biden was declining. You're the ones who got the release of the Hur tapes, the Robert Hur special counsel. Bravo to you.
Yeah, and thank you, Rita. Good to be with you, Cass. The big issue is, in my view, the kind of the failure of the whole system to deal with Biden's decline. I mean, it's a failure of the media, or you can call it a failure or corruption, but either way, the media didn't do what they needed to do. Those in government positions in the executive branch didn't do what they needed to do. Republicans in Congress didn't do what they needed to do. There was more than enough reason to at least ask questions about the 25th Amendment with respect to Joe Biden, and they didn't want to do it. Even after Hur said essentially his dementia prevented him from being prosecuted. I mean, how could you take that as seriously while not considering the 25th Amendment as a potential way of ensuring that someone only cognitively with it can be in the presidency? Now, Republicans at the time said, well, Kamala Harris was going to be the person who would be in there if it was to proceed. Well, that's not great, but at least she's not cognitively out of it. And that was a danger because not only do we have questions about decisions we made here at home, every friend and foe saw what Jake Tapper and we all did. He wasn't fit.
Tom Fitton.
How could we not think that the war in Ukraine didn't happen in part because Putin saw Biden was out of it?
But Tom Fitton, John Katzmatidis, it's those insiders at the White House. They lied to the American people. They got to be, the FBI has to investigate no matter what the Secret Service says. The FBI has to investigate and give the truth to the American people. Who did it? Who at the White House was pressing the button? And I could tell you a story that when Mike Johnson was in our studio, he told us a story. And Craig, I don't know if you were here, Rita,
I remember it, yeah.
That he says, Mr. President, the other day you signed this bill. This is dumb. This is not right. And President Biden said to him, no, I didn't sign that bill. He says, Mr. President, here's the bill with your signature. He looked at it, shook his head, and walked away. That is a true story told to us in the studio, face to face, by Speaker Mike Johnson.
Yeah, and the big question is what crimes, if any, took place as a result of Biden not watching the store and others speaking in his name in a way that I don't know how he could even check it in some respect.
8,000 pardons?
Look, there are a lot of reasons to question the pardons. His cognitive issues, only one of them. If I were President Trump, given the fact he issued pardons to family members and members of Congress and General Milley and Fauci without listing any crimes for years at a time, that's not a pardon and should be treated as null and void, and the Trump administration should proceed as they otherwise would in any criminal investigations as it relates to pardon targets. In the end, though, it's going to be accountability that comes from, in my view, Congress doing its job, full disclosure within the administration, meaning President Trump should open up the White House records of Joe Biden right now.
Yep.
So we can figure out what happened. We don't want to wait a decade or two so the same gang can come back into office with whoever it is they come into office with next time. Who knows? Why would it be any better than Biden?
Right. You know, before I forget, John, you triggered also a thought too, because did you see in this new book, the Jake Tapper book, it comes out, this to me was stunning. It's, Mark Warner, Democrat, is quoted in the book, according to Jake Tapper, right, saying that he had a meeting with Joe Biden about Guantanamo, about releasing 11 of the detainees. These are the worst of the worst, you know, terrorists, suspected terrorists held in Guantanamo. And after the meeting, he said Biden seemed so out of it and he couldn't believe the decisions he was making to release these guys. I mean, this is from a Democrat. You couple that with what John was saying about what Speaker Johnson said.
But his silence was deafening. Warner's and all these other people's silence was deafening. And you know what troubles...
No, it's disgraceful. I agree with you, Judge.
Tom, good to talk to you again. What troubles me is if the House is lost by the Republicans back to the Democrats, all of this is going to be covered up again. You need to have the investigative power, the subpoena power of the House to launch these investigations, to get the truth out there, to have transparency.
And do it now.
You have to do it now because next year may be too late because in the election cycle, which is fast approaching. Your thoughts, Tom?
I'm concerned Congress has been kind of out to lunch on a lot of these investigative issues. Some of it they're proceeding with because the FBI is turning over a document here and again. But they've got to focus on not only that scandal, but as you highlight, the related pardon scandal, the debacle in Afghanistan. I don't know. I kind of think it's important we figure out what led to the worst defeat in American history. I think you'd have to go back to the War of 1812 to find something comparable in terms of a debacle. Was that tied to his dementia? And, you know, on the other hand, is his dementia protective of him not being prosecuted? I don't think it is.
No, that's exactly right. The question is, what was his mind? What was his mind at the time of the events, not after? That's the legal question.
And, you know, when you listen to the full audio, he's with it enough to understand what he did and let a jury decide. And if Merrick Garland truly believed he was demented, then he should be asked tough questions as well. And I don't know who's going to do the investigation. I don't think the FBI and DOJ are up to it at this point.
Well, you saw that it's Comer on the House side is saying he's already putting out some of these, not necessarily to Biden, but some other folks, Johnson
and Jordan,
Ron Johnson, right, and Johnson on the Senate side, and he actually had like 28, including like Jill Biden was on that list. Craig Eaton.
You know, it's crazy because it's clear that he wasn't running the country in the 3 of the 4 years that he was president. And, you know, we should find out who was running the country because we know a lot of the signatures that they're claiming were his signatures on executive orders and everything else were not his signature. We've come to find out that was an auto pen.
Right.
So you know what? I mean, it's disgraceful. And someone actually today said that a demented Biden is better than a Trump. I mean, that's ridiculous. I mean, thank God that we took back this country. Otherwise, we could not afford another 4 years of a Biden administration or the Kamala Harris administration. This country would hit a point of no return.
The issue is who made the, you know, in theory, an auto pen is sufficient if the president authorizes its use. Where's the paperwork on that?
Yeah, right.
I don't think we can presume he was doing any of that, and we should double check to make sure he authorized the signatures that were automatically given through this auto pen.
Yeah, no question. There are so many questions. I hope we get to the bottom of this, Tom Fitton, because just to the judge's point, the big scheme seems to be, obviously, if they can get the House, all these investigations are going to be done. And they're also going to start using the impeachment word even more than Al Green has been using.
Well, yes. If Democrats take the House, you can be sure they'll be impeaching Trump again, if not worse. If not worse.
Wow. Well, Tom Fitton, keep us posted. You've done great investigative work. Keep us posted on all you're doing, Tom.
Thank you very much.
Talk to you all.